to get to Diane Benjamin. She's been right here. Diane, how are you doing? Thank you so much.
I'm doing good, Kat. How are you?
I'm good. I can't believe I've been so excited for this interview all week. And I'm glad that you've joined the show to break this all down. Today, we're talking a little bit about everything. Earlier in the show, I did talk about Olympia and Ridgeview. I was hoping that we could start there. Because there is an apparent error, I guess, out of the county clerk's office, which I said, let the error stand because it's a tax break for people in Olympia.
Well, the county clerk is getting blamed. I don't think anybody has definitively said who's to blame.
Okay.
Maybe the wrong numbers were given to the county clerk. I have no idea.
Yeah. So it could have originated with Olympia and Ridgeview where they gave the wrong numbers. And this was a tax referendum, at least for Olympia, that was passed in 2024, correct?
Yes, I believe so.
So
it's funny that Olympia made the news. Ridgeview didn't until I got a tip that the same problem existed out in Ridgeview.
Yeah, exactly. So let me set this up. Tell people about blnnews.com and your work, because you've been doing this for quite some time, right, Diane, with BLN News?
13 years.
13 years. Wow. So tell us about BLN News. What is it? And what can people find on this blog?
It's almost 100% local. I started it because the local media was so bad, giving misinformation, leaving out vital facts, and just not reporting things that needed to be reported. And they're still relatively bad at it. So that's why I'm still doing it.
Mm-hmm. So let's talk about this. It was 1.5 million with Olympia, correct? Where they were relying on that 1.5 million when it didn't come in because of the miscalculation. And from what I understand, folks, the McLean County Clerk's office is going to send out updated. Have you heard anything about Ridgeview, Diane? Are they going to send out updated tax bills so that way they can collect the money that? And did
yes, they are.
Know if Ridgeview had a referendum?
All the taxpayers in both districts should be expecting higher bills to come in the mail because they're making it all up on the second payment.
So problems with the referendums and these property taxes, and you've been covering this for some time. And this is not, so I want to be clear, because this referendum was not the sales tax referendum that recently passed, at least for Olympia. It was the March 2024 property tax referendum that we're talking about that would be applied to this year's bills. It wasn't, and they're still working that out. So the referendums and the property tax hikes, why? Is it because of the schools not managing their budgets correctly? And what have you seen here locally when it comes to the school districts? And there, it seems like every year there's a property tax referendum or some sort of tax referendum. Most recent in April, it was the sales tax referendum for a lot of all of McLean County schools, right?
You can just expect higher taxes every year to the school districts because they don't have enough money. Now, one of the problems is the wind farms. I don't know if you saw a post last week or something that property taxes on wind farms continually go down. So all this selling points that they use for, wind farms are going to provide so much money. Well, it starts off really good, and the school districts get all this pile of money from wind farms, and then over the next 10 to 15 years, that amount decreases. And somehow they have to make it up. So anybody who's relying on wind farms to fund schools is just mistaken. I'm sorry. But you're going to be getting less money, so evidently they need to tax citizens more to make up the difference.
That's interesting. So the wind farms, they're kind of getting a break. So where are they getting the break from that says, like, essentially that you don't have to pay as much property taxes because you're a wind farm? I'd imagine, is that at a state level?
Oh, no, it's not. It's not a tax break. It's because the wind farm depreciates. Those turbines are only supposed to last 15 to 20 years. So basically their value is zero at the end of that time. And so it gradually decreases until it gets to zero.
Well, and the same probably with the solar farms.
Oh, I'm sure.
Because they just combust randomly. And I love how They'll just say, "Oh, it's a fire that started underneath the underneath a solar panel," and I just back up every single time I hear that from the local media, and it's like, wait a second, like, why would you report the? Oh, it's just a random fire that started underneath the solar panel. Like, give me a break.
Right.
Let's shift gears. I actually just read up on your SBDC story, the Small Business Development Center story. So tell me what you found there. They're partnering with the Bloomington Economic Development Council, right?
So.
And tell me what happened in 2017, because you've been doing this for 13 years. And this was a Terry Renner type initiative, right? For at least the city of Bloomington, but I believe Normal, according to this SBDC.
Yeah, I think Normal was involved at the beginning. I don't know if they still are or not. But it was supposed to be a 3-year program that happened at Wesleyan, and they would coach people that wanted to be entrepreneurs.
Okay.
Of course, they needed money to do that. So, of course, it's taxpayer money, which my thoughts are if you need government money to start a business, then you shouldn't be in business. But
well, yeah,
anyway.
Have an O'Leary Shark Tank with tax dollars. And I don't know if we should be in the business of doing that. But, obviously, this thing hasn't gone away. It started in 2017, and it was only supposed to last for 3 years, you said?
The original funding was for 3 years. Now, I might have missed it, but I don't know where it was continued on into the future. Mm-hmm. But I did a search, and in 2025, Bloomington sent them $85,000. Now, when this started in 2017, it was less than $30,000 because they were sharing it with Normal and maybe other governments. I can't remember off the top of my head. But I don't know where that $85,000 was authorized. I don't remember ever seeing it on an agenda, ever being discussed. I don't think this organization has ever made a presentation to the city, like, why do we need this funding and how great we are. What caught my attention was a lady in downtown Bloomington got $10,000 to start a body piercing business. And it was under the EDC. So it took a while to track down where this money was coming from. And I actually had to have some help from somebody with more information than I did. And we tracked it to this Wesleyan program. So they just got $85,000 to run it in 2025. So I'm thinking that $10,000 was probably part of taxpayer money that went to her. It's supposed to be creating economic development. And I don't see a body piercing company or business turning into a large draw to the Bloomington area. If they're trying to get small businesses that are going to grow in the future, I don't think body piercing is a good place to invest the money.
And even if it was, and I don't know, correct me if I'm wrong, where are the reports? What are we proving that these $10,000 grant leases and there were multiple recipients? I think I looked it up in 2024. It was the Peppered Pig, a few others. Let me pull that up. The Peppered Pig, Lab Coffee, Lakeside Chiropractic, Rice and Spice Indian Grill, Emerald and Amethyst, its bookstore. Some of these are in Lexington. And they were, according to Carl Teichman, he's the expansion manager. He helped 12 businesses in 2024 receive the $10,000 McLean County commercial lease grant. So that's what that woman got, the body piercing grant, $10,000. And, I all for businesses, yes, 100%. But what's the proof? Give me the proof in the pudding that this is actually bolstering the economy. And are some of these businesses going to be here 5 years from now? What are the requirements for these businesses in order to get that grant? What does the application look like? I'll have to look into that. But you're exactly right, where it's like, okay, $85,000. Are we getting the return on investment, I guess? And if you're going to play Shark Tank, with our tax dollars and invest in these body piercing companies, we need to see the return on investment, because you can't just take taxpayer dollars and throw it at entrepreneurs that the BNEDC deems winners. I mean, you're picking winners and losers, right?
Oh, yeah. Now, if Bloomington is footing the whole bill for this, the businesses should be in Bloomington.
Yeah.
You're
Well,
saying there's businesses in Normal, Lexington.
yeah. Well, and that's the thing is that I saw Bloomington, Normal, and the Illinois Department of Commerce and Economic Opportunity. They allocated $20 million to small business development centers across the state. So there's about 35 small business development centers in the entire state, which one of them would be the Small Business Development Center of McLean County and Illinois Wesleyan, which is the one we're talking about today. So they get, and on their website, they're very clear about this. They said that, hey, we're funded in part by the U.S. Small Business Administration. We're funded in part by the IDCEOE, Bloomington, Normal. We're funded by all of these government agencies. And I just find it fascinating because I've seen this kind of stuff happen, but only in the private sector. I've never really seen this before where they're doing the investments of entrepreneurs in the public sector with public dollars. Because here locally, I've got something called the CEO program. It's the Land of Lincoln CEO program. And I actually went to the celebration thing where they awarded all of these awards, and a lot of these private corporations, I live in Lincoln. There's this private corporation. It's called Eaton. They donate a ton of money to the CEO program, and Eaton received an award for that, for giving that much money, at this cute little celebration that they had. And it's like, wait a second, we already have the private sector doing this sort of stuff, and it's okay because it's private dollars. If you do that, that's fine. They're not stealing the money to do it. They're making money, and then they're taking that money and putting it towards things that they believe in their communities. So I wouldn't be against this thing, but the BNEDC, my question to you would be, so totally backed by tax dollars, this organization, right?
As far as I know, it's kind of hard to get information, and I haven't spent hours and hours dwelling on it. I just saw the $85,000 payment from Bloomington. I went,
Yeah.
When did you authorize this?
Yeah. And it's so funny how they're funneling money everywhere. They give it to the SBDC, and then they give it to the Bloomington Economic Development Council. And it's just this is just strange. Want to shift gears. I do want to talk about the human trafficking. We talked a lot about that yesterday's show. It's archived YouTube, Twitter, and Rumble. And hey, we're talking with Diane Benjamin from BLN News. Don't sleep on this blog, folks. I love this blog. It's the best blog around in Central Illinois. BLNnews.com. Human trafficking. So what did you find out there? And this was talked about at a recent Bloomington City Council meeting, correct?
Yes. 2 people came and talked during public comment, and they wanted the city to pass an ordinance that massage parlors had to be licensed. And they mentioned that they had done this in Decatur, Springfield, and Peoria, and immediately all the massage parlors moved out of town. So they wanted Bloomington to do that. And I'm thinking, okay, what good does it do to license massage parlors to get them to move out of town to help the person being trafficked? Why aren't the trafficked people being rescued from these massage parlors? Because I'm sure they're not there voluntarily. It just went right over their heads, I think, that just move them out of town. We don't need them here. Let's just move them to another town. I just found that appalling.
These ordinances will do because, they're just okay, well, we're going to have too much government oversight, and they're going to. But here's the beauty about it all, Diane. I saw that there's something called, it's like the IDFPR or something like that, where they have to register anyway with the state. And then there's an entire division the state agency has that is supposed to enforce massage therapist licensure, where they're supposed to make sure that all these massage parlors are actually licensed with the state. So it's wait a second, we already have a law. We already have somebody who's enforcing this. Why aren't they doing it? You know what I mean? So it's you want more bureaucracy, you want more regulation, you want more ordinances. And I don't know if it's going to fix the problem, clearly, because they're not doing it now. Right?
According to these 2 people, Bloomington has 11, which I have no idea where these massage parlors are, but 11 is a lot. And evidently the state of Illinois does not have the resources to enforce the laws that they pass.
Yeah.
pretty much like every level of government. Let's pass a law.
Pass a
You can't
law,
enforce it, but
create a commission,
yes.
create a division, and it's called the Illinois Department of Financial and Professional Regulation. That's the state agency, and then they've got a division solely dedicated to enforcing licensure in the state. So, and they can receive tips from either law enforcement, the public. So really what they should do, the Allies Against Trafficking, which yes, Allies Against Trafficking, we're all against human trafficking. And I don't think that it was a totally terrible idea to go to because obviously there's a problem. It's just, what's the solution? They should send their tip in to the agency that's supposed to already enforce it, right? And if they're not doing that, the IDFPR, then we need some changes. And we need to get the Governor J.B. Pritzker appointed people out of those agencies and get people who actually are going to do their damn jobs.
Well, the state of Illinois already has the highest level of employees ever, I believe, under JB, who's increased them dramatically, which means not only salaries, but pensions and benefits. And that's why they're taxing us more. So I don't know what the answer is other than get people that actually care and do the job.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know.
Sharon Chung, I do want to get to this before we go today, Diane. Sharon Chung, who did she just endorse, and how do you know this guy, the guy that she endorsed? And I'll let you say this because I have no idea who this fellow is, but you do, because she's been in the community for 13 years, and you've been reporting on this as an investigative reporter. Diane Benjamin, blnnews.com. Check it out. Sharon Chung, she just endorsed somebody who?
Daniel Bess, who ran for governor in 2017. I don't know his particular bent, but he picked a running mate that is a member of the Democratic Socialists of America.
Do you know that running mate?
What was that?
What's the name of that running mate?
Oh, I would have to look it up. I don't know.
Yeah.
I believe he was a Chicago alderman at the time. He might still be.
Carlos Ramirez Rosa.
Ah, there you go. Okay. He was endorsed here locally by Terry Renner. I have a picture of Sharon Chung and Daniel Bess eating together on my website, along with other local Democrats, some of that used to be on the county board. If she's endorsing Daniel Bess and his running mate was a Democratic Socialist, he picked him because they were like-minded. And if Chung is endorsing Bess, she's like-minded.
Yeah, she's a socialist, and I don't want to sleep on this. So I think she's making $98,000 per year, right, as a state legislator. They all
she just raised her own salary $7,000 a year.
I can't believe that. So just to put this in perspective for those of you watching, listening, we had, I think it was $1 billion shortfall in the Illinois budget, and then they had to increase the taxes. We talked about that with the sports gambling and with the tobacco and vaping products. They increased those. They also increased corporate taxes, income taxes. So driving small businesses out of Illinois. But they had this shortfall, and in the same breath, they voted to give themselves pay raises. Now, I don't know about you, but that's not how life works, especially in the private sector. You're making money. And if you're losing money, nobody gets the Christmas bonus. Nobody.
It's a part-time job. It's supposed to be a part-time job. $98,000 a year for a part-time job.
Right.
And that's before any additional amounts for committee assignments or whatever.
And here's what Sharon Chung said about Daniel Biss, and I watched, a bit of Daniel Biss's, and he's running for, I think it's the 9th congressional district. But here's what she said. Daniel has spent his career fighting for the same values I champion every day. Public schools, accessible healthcare, and a government that works for working families.
Yeah, it works for her family.
It's like, I just chuckle and I can't stop from bursting. Thing. You put this on your blog. I love it. And Crystal Abel shared this. So Crystal Abel, she serves in 2 facets of government, both McLean County Board and the Normaltown Supership. But she says not just the wealthy few, his track record as a bold, thoughtful leader is exactly what we need in Washington. So your thoughts
Well,
there, Dan?
Crystal Abel is the Marxist lover, so it speaks volume about her opinion.
Yeah. And it's like working families, but Sharon, you aren't a working contributor of society. You're paid with tax dollars part-time. You just voted for yourself to get a raise, despite the state having a budget deficit of $1 billion, and they had to increase taxes in order to balance the budget. Right? So incredible. Anyway, Diane, anything else you'd like to add? Something that we need to know here in the central Illinois area? Any news you've got?
I just did a story this morning about Bloomington still spiking pensions so that people can have higher pensions.
Oh, tell me about that.
I don't know what the criteria is. I thought I had to FOIA IMRF, and they did not respond to my FOIA, so I actually had to file with the Attorney General's office to get them to respond to my FOIA. So I put their explanation in the story. I was like, sure. Okay.
So they're increasing their pensions. Bloomington is spiking their pensions. So for example, I know with the schools, you've got Barry Riley. He collects a pension of over $200,000, which is absolutely insane. As a retired superintendent. So Bloomington, the city of Bloomington, is increasing the amount of the pension that retired municipal employees get, Bloomington employees get.
There's a few people that are allowed to get their sick leave buyback, which I don't know anybody in the private sector who does sick leave buyback, but the government still does. They're paid that in their last year of service, which makes their last year of income really high, and their pension is based on that amount. So they're getting a higher pension because of that sick leave buyback payment. Now, for most employees, it was outlawed. They made a big deal about it. We're going to stop this process, even though they had already paid out somewhere over $4 million to IMRF to cover these higher pensions. But now they're still doing it. In 2025, there was a number of people that retired that still got to spike their pensions. And it doesn't seem to make any sense because it looked like most of them were like higher level managers. But then I got down to a truck driver and a meter reader. It was like, okay.
Well, and like, why are we doing this? Because I don't know what the number's at now. I can't keep up with it, but we've got a pension liability. So what that means, folks, is that you can't really pay the pensions because we don't have the money to pay those pensions. So
the funding percentage is low, and they keep taxing us more, trying to get it up. And it'll be interesting to see what it turns out to. Bloomington's year end was April 30th. We won't know until sometime in the fall what the pension level was or what the funding percentage was.
Interesting.
But it's like a losing battle. You keep adding employees, keep spiking pensions, you're going to get further in the hole. I'm sorry.
It's common sense. And Diane, I appreciate you being here on the program to provide common sense. It's no nonsense at BLN News, the news nobody reports.com. Check it out, BLN.com. Diane, thanks so much for joining me here this morning, and we'll talk. All right, folks. Thank you so much for tuning in to Conservative Cat. The program is live 6 a.m. to 8 a.m. daily. You won't want to miss it. And be sure to hit that subscribe button. Follow me on Rumble and on Facebook. And we're going to provide you some more show tomorrow morning, bright and early at 6 a.m. Bye-bye. Be blessed.